let's move on to our next speaker, Asad Ali Junaid. Asad Ali Junaid is an experienced designer at Adobe. Junaid has about 15 years of industry experience as an experience and interaction designer, contributing to companies such as Oracle, IBM, Intel, among others. Junaid has a multidisciplinary background with Masters of Science degrees in human factors psychology and in electrical engineering as well. He is also an entrepreneur and an author of an epistolary novel. He has several teaching credits and regularly teaches and conducts workshops on human computer interaction and creativity. Today, Junaid will be talking about architecture in interaction design. Over to you, Junaid.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Professor Ganesh, for the enlightening talk. And thank you, Souvik, for making this happen. So let me share my screen and start it off. Um, you guys can see my screen. No objections there. Okay. So basically, a couple of years back, right, what happened, I set it out to control my phone usage. So I wanted to control this by saying that, okay, I will charge only once a day, morning for 1 hour, 45 minutes or whatever. So I should charge early in the morning before I used to go to work, and then charge it again the next day morning. So that was how I wanted to control my cell phone usage. So what used to happen uh, uh, for some days was uh, the phone battery used to drain out by the evening, and I was using the same amount of phone. I used to use the same phone. I never used to use it as much. I never started using it more, so I couldn't figure out what was happening. So the crux of this problem, the crux of my introduction to the whole area came from that single problem. So, I mean, it's again the theme of this talk is curiosity, and that's where it started for me, with curiosity. So I'm just trying to, yeah. So I have an iPhone. I'm sure people who have the iPhone are familiar with this menu. You just scroll up on the iPhone and you get this menu. There are different options for airplane mode. You need to turn on the like data packet, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, then there's music options, all of that. So we'll just focus on the top section here where you see the data on and off, Wi-Fi on and off, and the Bluetooth on and off. So we'll focus on that. So uh, what used to happen was I figured that my the Wi-Fi of my phone used to automatically turn on. So I mean, though I didn't turn it on by myself, I used to switch it off, and then I used to go to office. By the time I reached office, it used to be on. I was like, I mean, what's happening? So then I researched further, and then I discovered that there are two different states for turning the data package on and the Wi-Fi on. So for turning on the data packet, right? I mean, the 4G data, you have that's one on the top there. You click on the off state goes to the on state, goes in a green color. But for the Wi-Fi, you click, Wi-Fi has a cross across it, and when you click it, it turns on using the, I mean, it shows on in the blue color. I mean, I didn't pay much attention to it. I didn't know what was going on. I mean, as long as I'm getting the Wi-Fi, I'm fine. As long as I'm getting the data package whenever there's no Wi-Fi, that's fine as well, right? So I didn't care as much then, but I started noticing this was what was happening. And the on state for the data packet you see was green. The on state for the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth was in the blue. Similarly, I mean, but the surprising thing was when you turn off the data package, it went back to its previous state. The off state, as what I thought, was it wasn't going back to the earlier that state which was there, but it used to be in this like light light green shade, what you see here at the bottom. So I'm like, why is this happening? So I wasn't sure what was going on. So when you turn the Wi-Fi on, and if you want to switch the Wi-Fi off, it didn't directly go to this state. It went to this intermediate state below, and from this intermediate state, the Wi-Fi of the phone used to turn on automatically. And I was like, what's going on? I mean, it's not in my control. I mean, what am I doing wrong, and why is this happening with the iPhone? I'm sure people who have an iPhone might have experienced this as well. Similarly, with the Bluetooth, there are three Bluetooth states. There's a Bluetooth off, there's a Bluetooth on, and there's an intermediate Bluetooth state where it remains there and it can turn on its own. I'm like, kya ho raha hai? So even in the control panel, right? So whenever the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth are in this intermediate state, you have this saying that it's not connected, though it seemed to be on, but it says it's not connected. And the mobile data, I mean, it's off there. So then I figured out that if I have to turn the Wi-Fi completely off, I have to go to the settings and click on this. It's says it is on, and then I have to turn it off from here. So it's like, I mean, three steps. I mean, you have to go to the settings and you have to do all of this for turning the Wi-Fi off. And whenever the Wi-Fi was in this intermediate, yeah, this is how it is when it is. It clearly says it is off when the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth are in this state, right? It clearly says it's off. So, I mean, is it such a big deal, right? I mean, why is this happening? And I wanted to figure out, because it was if the Wi-Fi is in this state, right? It was draining my battery. It was continuously searching for a signal. It turns on its own. And it's draining my battery, and it's not lasting the entire day like I had imagined it to. So, I mean, this was like a big deal for me specifically, and I thought, okay, is it a big deal for others as well? Then I start googling for answers, and this is where I ended up. And this is like a little dated post, like 2017 post. I'm sure there are a lot of other posts now, but a lot of people have asked, how do I stop my iPhone from connecting to Wi-Fi automatically, and how do I? So I mean, this was a real problem, right? So it is indeed a big deal for people like people in India, people, I mean, like me at least, who don't want to keep charging their phone multiple times during the day. I mean, we might be going out, we might be in a different, I mean, you can buy a bulky, you are charging this thing, but why do you want to do it? I mean, I don't want to do it, right? I don't want to carry that big bulky charger with me and all of that. So I didn't want all of this to happen. So that's the background to it. So then figured out that this is if it's the iPhone is not able to connect to any Wi-Fi networks when it is on, it'll keep searching for networks or hotspots, and this drains the battery, and it'll continue to search for networks for as long as the iPhone's user content authenticates a Wi-Fi network to connect. So this was, I mean, just draining the battery here. Then this is the official thing which happens. Okay, so in iOS 11 onwards, basically the iPhone, it is hardwired to switch on by itself. I'm like, so when does it switch on? The user walks or drives to a new location. Whenever your user goes to a new location, maybe from home to office, it turns on by itself. And in between for me, my commute is more than an hour, and in between this in this 1 hour, it continues searching for this Wi-Fi signal until I go to a new location. Or in the second case is it's 5 a.m. local time. So if you turn it off when you're asleep, and by the time it's morning, the Wi-Fi is turned on by itself, or when the device is restarted. And to completely switch off the Wi-Fi, you have to go to the settings and turn the Wi-Fi on and all of that. So, and this is again, there are different articles how to fix the Wi-Fi problem, how to turn off the Wi-Fi, all of this. This was an actual problem. I in fact wrote to Apple, tweeted them and all of that. I didn't hear back from them, but for me this was a problem. And basically by doing this, right, there are three design principles which the iPhone violates. These are user control and freedom, consistency and standards, and visibility of status. But user control, it's not basically, it switches on by itself. The user is not in control, and it is not completely switching off the Wi-Fi. Even if I want to switch it off by doing a swipe up, right? Then consistency. This is not consistent. So for me, the data packet and the Wi-Fi are ways to access the internet. So by following a different convention for switching on and switching off the data packet and the Wi-Fi, it's basically violating the rule of consistency here. And a lot of people, I mean, in terms of visibility of system status, right? I mean, a lot of people, a lot of users didn't know why their phone was automatically switching. So Wi-Fi was switching on. I mean, as seen from the Google results, right? A lot of people didn't know. And I was like, how could Apple do this, right? Apple is supposed to be the gold standard of user experience, and they were the guys who actually coined the term user experience. I mean, Don Norman was working there, and he set up the team, and he was the first person who with the title of user experience designer or user experience architect. So this was the company which was I mean, known for its user experience. And how could they even think of putting their users to this? For me, this was like a genuine problem. I'm very curious to figure out why are they doing this, right? So it was then I came across all this research about choice architecture and what they might have thought. Okay, basically, choice architecture is the design of environments in which people decide. It's basically a decision making thing, and it's people decide based on the choices available. Okay, and basically choice architecture, the commonalities are choice architecture, information architecture, interaction design. It's all about presenting information to consumers or users, right? So a choice architecture has a responsibility for organizing the context and furnishing the choices using which people nudge towards making favorable decisions. Okay, information architect is helping your users find information with the primary goal of completing tasks, and interaction designer designs for user experiences, the interactions. So these are very loose definitions, which I thought would serve the purpose of this presentation well. So I put it here. I don't want to get caught on debates on defining all of this, but yeah, basically for the purpose of this presentation, I have this. And the bottom line is information architects, interaction designers, user experience designers, we are all choice architects in a way, because we are presenting choices for the user or the consumer to be able to select among the choices available and make decisions and uh, get information basically. So there are different environments, right? Environments designed to present choices. So, I mean, you go to a restaurant, there's a buffet there. There are different choices. You walk into the supermarket. There's so many choices. I mean, consumers go in and are able to pick what they want. You go into Amazon or Flipkart, and you have some choices there. You have different ATMs. How ATMs present choices are different. The people design software applications. You have different choices there. You go into like a social media setting, Facebook, Twitter. You have again choices there. You pick up a newspaper, uh, and the news you see is based on choices which somebody has made for you to see. I mean, even a TV news channel, right? What kind of news is shown to you? It's again a set of choices, and which can lead to further debate. That's a different whole discussion. That's a separate discussion to happen. I don't get in there right now. But so let's talk about nudge here. So people's decisions can be influenced by small changes in the way how choices are presented to them. So again, these kinds of choices which enable people to make favorable decisions as decided by the choice architect are called nudges. People can be nudged into making a decision as decided by the choice architect. So it's a nudge is I'll go into examples. For example, like you in your in your menu, right? If you decide to have lots of healthy food options, a lot of fruits, lots of veggies, this is a nudge. It nudges you to basically eat healthy. Totally banning junk food is not a nudge, because you are like completely eliminating all those choices. That's not a nudge. Putting lots of healthy food in a menu is a nudge. So similarly, in the environment, right, there are a lot of these are in these environments are ripe to have these nudges. For example, in a buffet, you can go to a like a Chinese buffet, or you can uh, go to a buffet which has lots of healthy food items, right? So you go to that healthy food buffet. I mean, at least in US, you had them. You had lots of how do you say um, healthy items, such as a lot of veggies, a lot of uh, like soups and salads and all of that. Um, so, I mean, you can have nudges in these environments. In a supermarket, the how do people present choices, right? Maybe they put in the most expensive items right up front. They'll hide the less expensive items back. Even in an e-commerce site, you go to an e-commerce site, the first things you see in that top section is all these expensive phones there. In ATM, ATM, I mean, at least the HDFC Bank ATM, which I use regularly, it's narrowed down the choices. I can just quickly get in, quickly get out, taking out the specific amount of money which I want. So it has listed a set of favorite items in the list of um, choices which present to me, and I can get out as quickly as possible. A software application as well. I mean, you can have several nudges there. Social media setting. I mean, I'll go into examples of these settings. Even in a newspaper and a TV news channel, you can have lots of nudges to influence basically how people think about maybe this nation, maybe a political party, or things like that. So there are a couple of misconceptions about nudges. So it's possible to avoid influencing people's choices. In a setting where you have lots of choices, it's almost impossible to avoid influencing people's choices. So you have to present information in a certain way, and that is, I mean, you will be biased in some way or the other. Maybe if you are biased based on the revenue you want to earn, or if you want to have the greatest of experiences, or putting in most number of choices, all of that. The second misconception is a nudge always involves coercion. Coercion is a negative term. It's like forcing the user to do something. So that's a misconception. You don't have to have coercion in a nudge. And other misconception is nudges reduce ability to solve problems. So you're continuously nudging people to choose the right thing or decide by themselves. Um, so nudges, I mean, they're not necessarily they don't necessarily reduce the ability to solve problems. So there are two extremes here. So one is called libertarianism. I mean, it's a hard term. So a critical responsibility of choice architects like this is to protect the people's right to choose. That's one critical responsibility there, and this is known as libertarianism. So in an ideal world, right, people have all the choices they want. They are not biased choices. They can make the perfect choice without being influenced by anything or anybody. So that's a libertarian concept. The other extreme of this is called paternalism. So it's a action limiting a person or group's liberty or autonomy with the intent of their overall good. So again, the important thing here is the intent is their overall good. Example, I mean, you have laws against seatbelt. I mean, if you don't wear a seatbelt, you'll be fine. If you don't wear helmets, you'll be fine. And I mean, the iPhone Wi-Fi setting, right? So, I mean, the Apple thinks, okay, maybe this is good to people in some way. So that's I mean, maybe in a different country it works out, maybe because the data charges are very high, maybe in the US, and that's why they have this option of wherever they go, the first option would be for the Wi-Fi thing. So maybe they thought that this would work universally as well, which probably doesn't. So That's what I have taken out from that. Um, Interaction designer and information architect, we all walk this thin edge when designing applications. Whether we guide users down the right path, or we have to force the user uh, down this path. So sometimes it so happens, right? If the user doesn't feel that he's in control, right? So users have to feel that they have to be in control, and they have freedom to do what they want to do. So if the user is not aware of what the system is up to, what should happen if he initiates action, and that he's in control, right? If the user is not able to do all that, then he'll be pissed at whatever we have designed. Um, it's basically that's what I was trying to say. I mean, the expected user behavior is against or regardless of the will of an individual. So if the user is not willing to do it in a certain way, it's against his will and all of that. So um, this this it's important to note that no matter how much, if you are in an environment where there are design choices, there is no such thing as a neutral design, because you have to uh, present choices in a certain manner, no, regardless of it. So small and insignificant details can have major impacts on human behavior. So this is the whole theory behind it. And uh, what is the need actually? For why do we have to architect choices? Why do we have to nudge people? So this some statistics. 13% of the world people in the world are obese. 39% of the world's adults in the world are overweight. 1 in 5 children and adolescents globally are overweight. So if you're saying that people are able to make choices by themselves, right? They know that this eating this food and this quantity is bad, then they wouldn't be then in an ideal world there won't be any adults who are overweight. People won't pick up bad habits like smoking, and people, I mean, though marriage rates are declining, I mean, you have a lot of live-in relationships and all of that, but even then, right, among people who actually get married, 39% of marriages, I mean, we have stats for the US, they end in divorce. And
Hey, Junaid.
another
Sorry, we have 4 minutes for
four
the.
minutes we started a little late, but
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so share of children, I mean, this is again another example. Why This is again another example to show that people make bad choices in terms of people who are born outside of marriage. uh, Again, one reason why we need this choice architecture is to um, avoid this biases. So the there are plenty of biases in the world, and it's a deviation of the norm, and people don't make rational judgments. So that's, I mean, the problems which the bias help us to address. I mean, bias are there for a reason, and these are the problems which the biases help us to address. So some of the examples of nudges we see in everyday life are this. I mean, if you have a car or a bike, you see this very often. There's an engine check, there's a low fuel check. Even you have a phone, you have a, if there's low battery, it shows up there, that's a nudge. um, you have all your notifications saying that okay, I mean, I wouldn't check my Gmail unless I have a notification that okay, there are messages there, or I don't check my WhatsApp unless it shows that there is, it's a nudge to help me start looking at that. Gmail has a nudge. I mean, you would have got this. If you are sending something and there are no files attached, do you want to send it anyway? um, Notifications, I mean, there are some subtle notifications, kind of notifications as well. So if in the pages it says 9 new messages, or in a group there are like 2 new messages, or there's so many comments on a message, or there's so many people who have reacted to this, I mean, it's a nudge, it's a subtle nudge to see there. And when you are trying to shop for a plan, right, I mean, there's a most popular tag attached to it, and it's a nudge for people to actually pick that plan. Uh, this is one very common thing which a lot of people, including my wife is a PhD, she falls for this. So the anchoring bias, it uses a higher price to uh, anchor it says, okay, this is so much, you're saving so much, and this is what the price is. I mean, people will go for this. This is a lot of people will go for this. And there's this thing called the decoy effect. Decoy effect can be used to, it basically says that it'll compare uh, the item which you choose to less attractive options. So um, for you're getting a 12 GB RAM and 256 GB storage for 29. When you have the same 80 12 GB RAM to 56 GB storage for 45. So this is so much better option than that. So there are similar ways it'll compare. And this is in Amazon. Amazon actually doesn't allow us to compare phones which we pick. It just shows whatever it wants to. But I mean, Flipkart does allow us to compare, and I mean, uh, Amazon is definitely taking advantage of the decoy effect there. Um, Another same thing, the decoy effect is the Nord 5G has two options, right? And the price difference is hardly anything. It's like 2,000 for the 12 GB RAM. It's like if you pay 2,000 extra, you're getting a great value for the 12 GB RAM. So again, it's a decoy effect. Um, the sales nudge. I mean, do you remember all your like clothes shops, kids clothes shop, the food court is all on one floor, and the nudge here is you are going there to decide where to buy from rather than from to buy or not. Similarly, you go to a location. There are lots of other eateries available, and again, it's to buy or not. It's where to buy from, which evil to choose. Similarly, you have all these festivals, right? They come together. All these festival sales come together, and again, the choice is you're not buying or not. That's not what's in your mind, but you decide where to buy from, which is another choice. So uh, if you want the best players to reach the finals, you have the seeding system, and sometimes in tournaments, world ranking is not equal to seeding. You get the it is designed. The whole system is designed so that the best players come there. In the context of time, I'll just skip this. You have affordances as nudges as well, and there are false affordances and hidden affordances, and there's a default settings as nudges which are very powerful. The example which I wanted to give was how many people have actually changed all the default settings on the phone. So not many. I mean, I haven't changed all the default settings on the phone. Maybe for the ringtone, that's it. So, uh, and even the organ donation part. So, if you are given option to opt in, maybe 30% of the population would opt in to donate organs. If you are already automatically enrolled and you have to actually opt out, only about 10 to 15 people bother to opt out. So you have about 80 to 85% of the people who actually are willing to donate organs there. So, and the worst kind of default setting which I've come across, it is even worse than the iPhone settings, is for the WhatsApp auto download. So I have come across multiple occasions where my parents' phones are like actually hanging because all the videos and photos they're just downloading and it's the phone hangs. I mean, it's like the worst kind of uh, default settings. So basically, the key takeaways are while presenting choices, it is extremely difficult to avoid influencing people's choices. Humans are biased and terrible at making choices, and therefore nudges are there. They're needed to overcome flaws in decision making and cognitive bias. Default options act as powerful nudges, and people's decisions can be influenced by small changes in the context of how choices are presented to them. So that's, and for further reading, this is an amazing book. I highly recommend that you pick this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Junaid, for a amazing talk. I apologize for you had to skip a few slides there, but definitely it was a very interesting talk. In the interest of time, we'll take only two questions for now, and definitely one of the questions you can stop sharing now. It's
Sure. Okay.
cool. So, in the interest of time, we'll take about two questions, and this one is coming from Sovik, and it is definitely an interesting one. So, he asks: Is a libertarian and a paternalist likely to come up with different information architectures or understanding of information?
Yeah,
Or
probably. So if again, it depends on the individual, but based on what they're intending to do, right? What the intent is, whether they want to give all the choices they want, or they want to reduce the set of choices to make make a person to come to a decision which is beneficial to him. I mean, they'll probably. I strongly think that they would take a different path.
cool. So the second part of this question actually talks about, as a designer of these technologies and these platforms, is there something we can deliberately do so that our work comes off as unbiased?
It's very difficult. I mean, to come across as unbiased, I mean, if you have the right intent and all of that, yes. But I mean, if your intent is to benefit the audience um, the most, but I mean, if the organization you work for, example, you work at Amazon and you have to present choices to the consumer to maximize profit. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? So that's where it stands.
Yeah, definitely. So, interestingly, I recently started off learning about this topic called behavioral economics, and I think
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we're talking
This
about
is
today.
this is completely connected to all of that. There's a bigger. This is the overall umbrella, behavioral economics, and underneath this, in fact, the book which I mentioned, the authors have won Nobel Prize in that field. So
Yeah.
this is like a whole jungle in itself. So it's yeah.
Definitely. So I asked a question from the technology designer side of it. Now let's move to the consumer side of it. As consumers of technology, or in fact in the physical world, we come across these, nudges that be it the decoy effect, be it the higher markup on prices, on products, which is like, which talks about the anchoring bias that it tries to induce with that. So, what do you think we can do as consumers now, to just be aware of the irrational decisions we make while we come across these biases?
So, I mean, as you mentioned, it's awareness. I mean, if you are aware that okay, this is how the choices are being presented to you, and you know that what is the science behind all of this, right? What is the science? What is the thought behind all the choices which are presented to you? Then you can decide appropriately. I really wanted to buy the OnePlus Nord 5G. I mean, my iPhone is like 7 years old now, and I mean it's still going great. But I still really wanted to buy the iPhone Nord 5G. But when I look at I mean the choices which are presented to me by Amazon, right? Uh, Comparing the iPhone Nord 5G, 12 GB RAM with the 8 GB RAM and the price difference, and I'm aware what they're trying to do. They're presenting this decoy to me, and even the because of the awareness, I'm thinking, should I really buy this, or is there any other better option in the market? And I'm used to the iPhone now. Should I just go ahead and buy the iPhone 12 or iPhone SE 2021 whenever it comes? So I'm aware of what is happening and why they're doing it, and that helps in a lot of ways.